Coming up, a Sad Styles production. Get into it!
Okay, hey, Andrew, before we get started, I know this month has been particularly tough for us with all the scary games. I know it's not easy recording with me in general, but now we got all the spooks. I wanted to say, thank you for being a continued co-host of me and being so supportive. Nice. I actually got you something that I'm going to give you before we record. It's this little stuffed animal here. I'm going to huck that over to you. Whoop.
Okay.
Good catch.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Andrew. Now, before you thank me, I want you to just flip that over thing real quick. So you see that on the back there?
Yeah.
That little slot?
For the batteries?
Yeah, it's for batteries. Now, I'm going to say before you put the batteries into that stuffed animal, there's something you should know. As soon as you shove a couple double A's up there, that thing's coming to life, and it's probably going straight for your jugular or another similar artery of some sort. Okay?
Is that like a euphemism?
No. I mean, it's literally going to hunt you to the ends of the earth. It has that programming in it. It's the long history of toys that try to kill their owners.
What the hell? What long history? What are you talking about?
Oh, the Chuckies.
Yeah.
And well, I guess it's kind of just Chucky, but there's Chucky 2.
There's Bride of Chucky.
Has Chucky been in space yet with the leprechaun?
No, maybe we should ask Elon Musk. Send a car. Yeah. Send Chucky next.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, we should try that. Now, so can you just hook that back to me?
Yeah. Here you go.
Thanks. So I did warn you. I've actually got some batteries right here. I'm going to shove those in here.
Stop. Why would you put batteries in those?
And catch. No, okay, well, he wrestles with that. We're going to take a look at Poppy Playtime this week on the Retrograde podcast.
Welcome to the Retrograde
podcast, where we remind you what you used to love and whether or not you still should.
I'm Andrew Bascom, and with me as always is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself.
My scream scaring word.
Scaring word. Why are we doing that every week? That's great.
Well, I can't do the same thing every week, Andrew. The listeners demand a new name every week, and up to this date, I've had 234 of them.
Wow, you've repeated a couple.
I never would.
No, you did.
I never would.
Mike Andretti.
Mm-hmm. It's great. That one isn't a rep. It just has so much substance to it that I had to spread it over 3 episodes.
It's like a magic eye of a nickname.
It is. Why is it like a magic eye of a nickname?
Because you look at it and you're like, look at that. And then you look at it again and you're like, oh, it's something different. Layers.
Oh, okay. I don't think that's how magic eyes work.
I don't think so. Okay. Try and explain magic to me. That's interesting.
Speaking of things we've done.
Magic's in your heart.
Speaking of things we've done in 3 different episodes is me explaining magic eyes.
Here we are again, part 3.
Well, here we are again, Andrew. And if you're new to this podcast and you're joining us for the first time, first of all, thanks for listening. Secondly, typically we do on the podcast, take a look back at the games that we used to play when we were kids. Usually it's something we had an affinity towards one way or another. We rate and review the games as we remember them back when we played them. And then we play the game, come back and rate and review the game out of 4 bits. Once again, based on how the game holds up in the modern day against likes of modern games. But this month is something a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a little bit spooky.
I would say, Andrew, it's a little bit scary. It's hashtag Retrograde.
Hashtag Retrograde, where we play scary games.
We play scary games. Last week, we played the Mortuary Assistant. The week prior to that, we played Slender, the 8 Pages. And this week, we're going with another Twitch darling. It's called Poppy Playtime.
Oh, no. I've seen this being played.
It would
Nobody
almost
looks like
be
they're
hard
having
not to.
fun.
This is what I don't understand about these games. The only people who have fun with these games are the people who watch them being played on Twitch.
Oh.
Right? Is that who they're for?
It's your fault.
It's your fault, you frickin' losers.
Stupid D-pants.
Now, so this is one that I'll say, we'll get into like the meat and potatoes of this game in a little bit, or whatever is contained within the titular, not Poppy, but Huggy McHugginsworth or whatever the fuck his name is.
No, he's Irish.
Huggy Wuggy. His name is Huggy Wuggy. He's Irish. We'll get into what's inside Huggy Wuggy in a little bit, but before we really dig deep into this game, I just want to say before we take a little bit of a detour, I was very afraid to play Slender, the 8 Pages.
Yes.
I was very afraid to play the Mortuary Assistant.
Yes.
Rightfully so. That game scared the shit out of me.
I was so scared. You nearly had a heart attack last week.
People have asked if I was being serious. I was being serious when I said that I actually felt a pain in my chest and my arm my left arm was feeling a little weird.
I saw somebody replying to you like, Joking aside, you should really go get that checked out. Like he was trying to like genuinely do a PSA with you. Like, haha, that was really funny. Great episode, guys. Seriously, you should go to a doctor and probably get that checked out.
That person's probably right.
Absolutely.
I was stressed and strained the whole time. By the way, this month and this month only, our Patreon, usually patreon.com/retrograde podcast, you can join the Mushroom Club. That's where we post all of our gameplay segments for each episode. This month, we're actually posting them all on our YouTube channel, day one for free. So if you haven't yet, go check out the Mortuary Assistant. I think to date is one of our more commented on or popular gameplay segments. And then we also have, granted, a lot of the other ones haven't been posted to YouTube, so go figure.
Oh, fair enough.
And then we also have Slender the 8 Pages. Both of those are a lot of fun to watch, so I would recommend doing it. And today's going to be no different, but the point I was trying to make.
Oh, yes.
Very afraid to play the other two games. Not really afraid about this game.
Oh, don't say this stuff out loud.
But here's the thing. It's not going to haunt me in real life. Huggy Wuggy is not going to hug me. Freudian slip.
Yeah.
I'd really like someone to hug me in real life.
Hug me to death, crush me. I have a real crushing fantasy.
Speaking of my not a crushing fantasy, my girlfriend the other day, we were out.
Sorry, I have a blue crush fantasy. I have a thing for Kate Bosworth.
Oh, great pull, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the surfing movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm more of an, I have an REM fetish. I'm more of an Orange Crush kind of guy. I was out with my girlfriend, we were walking, and it's like cold and rainy outside. And so normally what you would say to comment on the whatever is going on outside your house when it's cold and rainy is, ooh, it's really cold outside, or it's really rainy outside. She looked up and she said, ooh, it's really spooky outside. I was like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Maybe she's connected to some part of this world that we don't understand.
I was half expecting to look up and there just be like ghosts looking down.
Yeah, like it's like New York and the middle of Ghostbusters.
Yes.
You're like, oh, real spooky outside.
I guess ghosts are real.
Somebody got to call somebody.
Who? I
don't know. I've never found out.
Ask Ray Lewis.
Never did. Ask Ray Lewis?
Ray Parker Jr.?
Ray Parker Jr. Ray Lewis was a retired football player and famous murderer.
Jerry Rice?
Also famous for football, not for murder.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, but he did bad things, didn't he?
No,
he didn't.
Jerry Rice was good.
He's good.
He's good. Ray Rice you're thinking of.
Ray
Rice beat up his wife in an elevator.
No, who's the one who did the bad thing?
No, that's Ray Rice. He was ostracized from football.
So look,
speaking of spooky things,
how do you feel now? We're two. We're 2 episodes into this scary month that we've come to despise, you and I. Do you feel like your palate, similar to how when we first started this podcast, we weren't great at playing retro games, right? We talk about that a lot. We learned the vocabulary of playing retro games. Do you feel you've gotten better at playing scary games yet?
1000%. I was thinking about this today, totally dreading what we're about to do, and thinking about it all day consumes me.
I lost sleep last night.
Absolutely. Sitting over my cereal going like, well, today's going to be sucking. And I have 12 hours to go.
What'd you have for cereal this morning?
I didn't eat cereal.
I was going to say.
No, I don't.
You notoriously make fun of me for having thought that Vector was an athlete's cereal.
Vector, I think, which is a Canadian, is like a Wheaties kind of type brand where it's like for athletes. And you're like 43 grams of sugar.
But look, that's going straight to my biceps.
100%. I'm carb loading before my long day at work sitting in an office.
Yeah, sorry, you're contemplating over your Vector?
Yeah, I just absolutely hated my hot porridge I was having because 12 hours later I was going to record this stupid podcast where I get scared on camera.
Yeah.
Like it's like I'm getting pranked intentionally and I'm volunteering for it.
Yeah.
It just sucks. Yeah. But yes, I am getting better at this. And I really think last week I turned a corner.
Oh, you did? And then there was a ghost there waiting for you?
Yes, and I was like, oh God, there's a ghost. And I was like, God damn this fucking podcast. If you see it on the YouTube, I'm genuinely enjoying it. And because I was watching myself, which is a weird existential experience of watching yourself do these kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
And I was watching myself get scared, where I leap back in my chair, like, but immediately leap towards the keyboard and go, okay, so I got to go see here. Immediately. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm starting to enjoy this. Like, not enjoy the scare part, but going like, it's still a game. The game part of it is still bringing me back.
See, it's funny because I still hate the scare. You know what I will compare it to is like going to the gym. You're in the gym and you're like, this fucking sucks. Yep. And then you leave the gym and you're like, no, that wasn't so bad. And then you go back again. You're like, thank God I have that short-term memory. Like it always sucks going back in there. And I'm reminding myself of how bad I actually felt in the middle of the mortuary
100%.
assistant. And I'm like, I don't want to go back to that point.
Yeah.
Because I keep feeling like I'm brave, like, oh, Poppy Playtime, it's not going to be that bad. But then I remember the feeling of dread and the scariness.
Yes.
But here's why I'm not feeling like I'm going to be so scared by Poppy Playtime. Because it doesn't it's kind of like a Five Nights at Freddy's kind of thing, where like I'm not scared of animatronics. The fact that they are alive and like mean does not creep me out. I don't have that weird uncanny valley kind of thing where it's like, oh, something that's familiar but different and all that. So to have a toy that's scary is nowhere near as terrifying to me as like a ghost or a ghoul or a goblin.
Ghoulie, ghosty.
Ghoulies, ghosties. Do you feel a similar like fear towards?
Sure. Like it makes me unsettled, but I, like if I had to walk through like a empty department store in the middle of the night while the lights were off, I'm not like having a great time.
Yeah. Unless there's no security guard and you just get to run rampant.
Oh my God. I get to like blank check it where I just like put it on clothing and then you'd be sitting there in the dressing room and I'd bring out stuff and you'd be like, sometimes you'd be like, no. And then other times you'd go like, yeah.
And every time I would turn around and I'd have my glasses on and I'd have to kind of like pull them down a little bit. Like, I don't know, even though it's a department store in the middle of the night.
Yes. And then, but then, part of the horror comedy we're writing here, then one time I come out and there's a mannequin sitting next to you and you look at each other and you're both like, no. And I'm like, guys. And then you're like, ghost. I had to run away.
I was going to say that the last time you come out, it's the security guard who's got my hands behind his back and he looks at you and he gives you the thumbs up.
He's like, looking good.
Yeah. You're a little scared and you look back, you're like, but what about the clothes? Yeah.
I'll be the most fashionable person in jail that night.
I like it.
Yeah, it's that's not something that necessarily scares me, but it is, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And we don't have to get all the way into it right now.
Okay.
But there is a certain amount of chasing that is involved.
It seems like it. Yeah.
And that is the part that will give me anxiety.
It seems like a puzzle game more than
isn't life though.
Life is definitely a puzzle game in the sense that it's very frustrating. And when it works out, I think, oh, fucking finally.
I'm trying to find cheats the whole time.
I'm constantly looking up guides online.
Can't I just pay to skip ahead?
Turns out
you can. In almost every facet of every game in life.
The thing that I'm a little bit skeptical of is that kind of feeling of like you're being chased and this. It seems like, and you kind of mentioned this before we hit record, that when a pop-out scare does happen and the chase is on in this game, that there is no escape. It's like meant for you to fail. So it seems like it's almost on rails in a weird way, which we'll find out. But if that's the case, then it means that it's kind of trial and error. Like, oh, I went this way, so I know if I don't go that way, I'm closer to the solution. And then maybe like once a scare has happened to me, I'm no longer scared.
Okay, so I was going to bring that up because that seems to be definitely the trend in the first two episodes.
Yeah.
The first scare is absolutely the worst.
Yes.
No matter what. We saw the Slender Man, very scary, scared the hell of us. The fourth time we saw him, it's like, yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I'm going to say that's one of the detriments of Slender Man and why it got a lower rating, which by the way, the way we're reviewing these horror games is we, instead of giving it 4 for a retro score and 4 for a current score, we give it 4 for a score of the game itself and 4 for a score of how scary is it actually. And Slender Man actually scored pretty low there. And the reason was there was one way it could scare you really. And just existing, static around the screens. Shit. It just wasn't, there he is. It wasn't that scary, right? I will say though, with the mortuary assistant, the scares were varied enough. When I say once I'm scared, I'm not going to be scared again. Fool me once, scare me once. I mean by that scare. It's like a double Jeopardy scenario.
But we definitely got better at it, even in the mortuary assistant, where like the first couple scares, goblin on the cupboard, classic goblin on the cupboard, smoke lady, those ones got us those first couple times. But then when you saw goblin in the window, more interesting than scary.
Well, I would attribute that to sound cue or no sound cue. My favorite scares in the mortuary assistant, go back and listen to that episode if you want us to dig a little bit, you want to hear us dig a little bit more deeper there, but my favorite types of scares were scares that would happen without the sound cue. Things where it's like there's something in your field of vision and the scare, the creepiness and the fear comes with an unfamiliarity. And you know what does this really well is the movie The Babadook, where I remember there's one scene where you're kind of like, she's looking through her window into another window and there's a lot of clutter. And your eyes, it's like your eyes are adjusting to the darkness, but it's just trying to recognize what it's looking at. And that process of almost disassociation, and it's like a derealization of some sort, that creepiness is just like inherent and icky inside. I like that. That's a good scare. I want more of that. I don't think we're going to get much of that in Poppy Playtime.
No, it sounds like it has to be a sudden and urgent thing that now and then you're like, yes, you got to run. I really liked the last week. Actually, you know, it's so funny. I was thinking about the goblin on the cupboard, and
that's like the sequel to the Indian in the cupboard.
Absolutely, yeah. Goblin on the cupboard is that it is good because if you notice, this is me zapruder film our last episode, but is that we are walking back and he's there. And we don't see him at all.
Yes.
And it wasn't until we got to the desk and turned around and then looked up. Oh, he's there.
Yes.
And I'm like, he's been there the whole time. And we just didn't even notice.
I noticed that because when we went back to go edit and watch it, you see the goblin there.
He's there.
It's almost as though it doesn't clue the goblin into moving until your cursor is a certain distance away from it.
Right. He's closer to your immediate field of vision.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really cool because it's almost like it is that kind of thing where you're going back and you're like, someone who's watching that video, that sense of like dramatic irony, like, oh shit, these guys didn't see that. Like, how did they not see that? It was great. We'll see if that's the case in Poppy Playtime. But before we get directly dealing with Poppy Playtime, let's talk a little bit of other games. Andrew, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Not scary in the sense that this game is scary.
Ooh.
But I know it's a franchise that you hold near and dear to your heart, in particular with this cover athlete of Tiger Woods. The ratings for PGA Tour 2K23, not that great. What have you? Do you have any plans to get it? Do you have any? Have you been following the reviews at all?
I'm glad you asked, Mikey. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll take my answer off the air.
Okay, cool. Just walk out.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Finally.
And here's what I think about things.
And the Jews. And you're like, oh my God, not
Jesus
again.
Christ. Mikey comes sprinting back in. You know what? I bought last year's version.
Yeah.
And because it was back to 2K, it was bringing back some of the PGA players and some of the famous courses. And it was like, oh my God, it's very real.
Yep.
You know what? It just wasn't very interesting. And now Tiger Woods is back on it. And you're like, okay, great. It's like Tiger Woods PGA golf again.
Except and a big coup because it's not an EA sports title, right?
No, and I've loved 2K recently. I love the NBA 2K franchise, whatever. And it just wasn't exciting. It just was it was very good. It was very normal. But in that way, it was very boring because it just felt like doing math where even at the end, you're like, oh, I got the answer right. And you're like, yeah, was it fun though?
Yeah.
And so it just felt, we talk about games being on rails like we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. This is on rails.
Like a typical Toronto fuckboy.
Yes.
Being on rails.
Being on rails.
Yeah.
That's a cocaine joke, everybody. Is like, okay, everyone kind of shoots their drive within 20 yards of each other. Then everyone kind of puts it on the green and then it comes down to putting and you're like, oh, this is like very real golf.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not sure that's good. And so I had trouble really sustaining my interest. And I tried really hard to get like into the season and like building my way up. And now with the Tiger Woods thing being back and the reviews being low, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm going to wait for like Game Pass or something.
How do they revamp the game of golf? It feels, and we've kind of talked about this the last couple times we talked about sports video games as well, but it feels like golf as a type of video game peaked so early because the mechanics are relatively unchanged from the earlier days. Like,
absolutely.
What more can you, if anything, they've drawn it back a bit. They went with some of the middling or like the middle range Tiger Woods from like the early 2000s. Yeah. They were a bit more arcadey and then they dialed it back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it seems like that's where we're at now into like a pure simulation. But it turns out that like a pure simulation of golf is just so like everything else we've ever played.
Yes.
That it's like a Pokemon Snap game without the Pokemon Snap dressing. It's like you want the mechanics are so similar to every other golf game that the only thing that makes it different is the fact that it's real players. But it turns out even that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't. You're like, oh yeah, the courses look like courses. You're like, yeah, okay. Like, like
I'd rather play Hot Shots. Or everyone's golf or whatever it's called now. Yeah.
The problem is like, it's just really hard to be impressed by graphics these days. Yeah. Yes, there are certain times where you see that. What was that? It was the Tekken trailer or something like that. Sure. Where you're like, holy shit, look at that. Golf games aren't going to do that. You're expecting it's going to look pretty good because what else are they spending it on? And the problem is like, playing the 2K franchise for NBA, there's 10 players moving on a court and, you're doing all this good stuff. So every game is slightly different. Yep. This one, it's like, oh God, like after I finished a round of golf, I was like, God, do I have to do another one of these? And then just an infinite amount of these?
100%.
Oh my God.
That's why I like the Hot Shots franchise or some of those more arcadey golf games because they allow you to do more interesting things more often. It reminded me though, as you talk about graphics and like the improvements on golf games, do you remember probably around the early 2000s or so, like the PlayStation 2 era, PlayStation 2, Xbox, there was every sports game. It was amazing because they all started to introduce sweat mechanics.
Yes.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
Sweat mechanics were like so the big thing. It was like, look, halfway through the game, Shaq's ball sweat is pooling under, and you're like, I don't know that I needed that. Really.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird now when they look dry.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, oh, it's kind of weird looking.
Yeah.
Like they just look like they're floating or they're paintings.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That was, what a weird one. And you're
Even
like,
because I remember that being a thing in one of the Tiger Woods games. It's like, look, you can see his back sweat. I'm like, that's gross. I don't care.
why would I want to see that?
Yeah. Am I going to have to like eat my electrolytes on the 16th hole to make sure that I don't start shaking as I'm putting? Like, I don't need any of that.
I have to squirt my electric protein powder into my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's, I don't know. I wonder, like, so in golf, you play 4 rounds of the same tournament to win the thing. And you have to reduce these things to 1-round tournaments.
Sure.
Because you're like, I couldn't imagine playing this thing fucking 4 rounds. I got to go course to course here.
100%.
To be a little different.
Do they do that in these games?
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a long time since I played a Tiger Woods game. I honestly, or even a PGA Tour. I just doesn't do it for me anymore.
Well, maybe we should go back and play. This is like an ideal drinking and driving video game. Like we should go back and play the old last year's version.
We did drinking and Too Drunk, Too Sober, we call it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We did Too Drunk, Too Sober, which is over on our Patreon.
Thank you for reminding me.
It is where we play a round of a game sober, then we take a break, we drink too much.
Way too much.
And then we come back and play that same game drunk to see who is better drunk and who is better sober. We did that with Mario Golf.
Oh, we did it for Mario Golf.
We did
you
it
kicked
with Mario
the shit
Golf.
out of me.
That was a fun one.
Oh, God.
Because I won.
Yeah, you beat the living hell out of me. I think it was mostly the alcohol, but
But we'll see.
We'll see. I don't know, Bob. Yeah, so that's why I've been playing with that. I've been playing a ton of NBA 2K. It's been really good. I've played a little bit Overwatch 2, but I haven't really done that. We did obviously at the Mushroom Club.
Yes.
We gave a very long episode of all of our thoughts of Overwatch 2 of that first week.
We should reiterate that because, everyone who listens to this podcast knows how much I usually talk about Overwatch.
Yeah.
It is a notable absence from the main feed right now. We spent almost a full hour talking about our initial thoughts on Overwatch 2. I've continued to play it, but if you want those thoughts, I don't have,
Oh, you kept playing it, eh?
I've tried.
Oh, you're playing Overwatch.
I don't have any new thoughts. I've put them all on the Patreon there. So if you want to hear those, go check that out. It's $5 US per month. Go check. You get access to everything, even if it's just for a month. Check it out. Join us. And
that'd be awesome.
And then fuck off if you want. I don't care.
And then, but like at the end of Retrograde, we'll probably talk about it more.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense. We'll have a bit more time, but there are other spooky things that I want to do prior to getting into the game. Just quickly, I want to run through something in the spirit of Halloween month. That's what people call it. Or Rocktober, depending on who you are.
It starts earlier and earlier every year.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
This is basically pre-Christmas already that we're in right now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it used to wait till American Thanksgiving, and now it's like, now September comes around.
Now they basically wait till Canadian Thanksgiving, which is the first week of October. Yeah. So what I want to do in the spirit of scary games and scary months, I want to talk about the best-selling horror games of all time.
Wow.
Now, it's tough to get a full bead on what these numbers actually are, A, B, what constitutes a horror game, and C, whether these numbers are completely accurate. But I went from a site called Gamers Decide. It seemed like their numbers kind of matched with some other spot checking that I did. We're going to go from 15 down to 1.
Good.
3,
You're
2,
not just
1.
going to sporadically jump around number to number.
I am no House of Pain, Andrew. No, I will not jump around. First of all, here's a question for you. Top of your head, what is the franchise that appears on this list the most?
Resident Evil.
100%.
Okay.
I want your guess for how many times a Resident Evil game shows up in the top 15.
8.
Okay, let's see. We'll take a look.
Obviously, I'm choosing a very popular number there, but yes.
Why?
Because it's my lucky number.
8 is?
No. I think it's because it's the infinity symbol. And I think that's really beautiful.
So it counts for anything?
It does. It could be 0. It could be 1. It's like an ace.
Infinity. Now you're talking about my favorite pools.
Really? That's your favorite kind of pool?
Oh, Andrew.
Okay, real question though. Do you like saltwater or freshwater pools?
Freshwater.
Okay.
100%. I want the chemicals.
Yeah, you want those chemicals.
Give me those chemicals. If I don't feel like I'm probably hurting myself by gulping down a thing of water, I don't want to be in there.
Right.
I don't want to drink the ocean.
No.
That's what this comes down to.
Yeah, it does.
Why don't you just ask the question you want to ask, Andrew?
And do you know why the ocean is salty?
God's tears?
Oh, that's beautiful somehow. God's tears.
Why is he crying?
He's so disappointed in us. Oh, especially you and I. But
well, we did elect Obama. Ugh.
Oh God, he's like, this is a test. Oh, you all failed. And that's why the ocean. Actually, The oceans are getting higher, right? Yeah, so he's more disappointed in us.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's not the melting ice caps.
No.
Yeah.
That's what they'll try and tell you.
That's what it is. Yeah.
100%.
Okay, so let's go through from 15 to 1. Number 15, we got Resident Evil 0 from 2002.
Oh, that's
4.2 million units.
Okay.
Resident Evil 0 on the GameCube. At number 14, kind of lower than I would have expected, Resident Evil 2 from 1998.
That was the one I thought was going to be like number 1.
So you would think so, but the install base of the PlayStation at the time probably didn't reach as much. Now we have Resident Evil games that have hit multiple consoles and multiple console cycles as well.
Yeah,
so that's kind of one thing you got to keep in
That
mind.
makes sense.
Number 13, Dying Light 2 from 2022, over 5 million units. Incredibly popular franchise, really, but not one that I really expected on here, to be honest. Dead by Daylight is number 12 from 2016. That sold over 5 million units.
Okay.
We got Resident Evil, the original from 1996, somewhere around 5.2 million units at number 11. Number 10, Resident Evil 3 Remake from 2020. Also just over 5.2 million units.
Wow.
The Resident Evil 3 Remake, remember 3 Remake?
Whoa, hey.
I stumbled upon something that actually
pretty good.
worked.
I like it.
Remember we played the Resident Evil 2 Remake on this podcast as one of like our first scary games that we played.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I had a great time doing it.
Did you continue to play it?
Here's my problem with that game.
Uh-oh.
I hate a game that throws an enemy at you consistently that you cannot kill. Especially in a survival horror game where ammunition is limited and health resources are limited. So I found myself at a point where I'm still in the initial police station. All the doors are open. I don't know where I'm supposed to go, so it's just going to take some exploring. And yet every time I explore, I got Mr. fucking X knocking down my door and I can't do anything about it. There were mods that I looked up to try to get him out of the game. And I think I would have enjoyed that a lot better.
Okay, yeah.
A great game, but I never finished it.
I got you.
Maybe on my Steam deck.
Wait.
Who knows?
You didn't finish it.
Hey. I've been finishing games lately, Andrew.
Every time he does one.
Yeah. It's big news.
It's a big deuce.
It's what?
I think he said deuce. And
it's big news.
Oh, it's big news from the big deuce.
No, it's not the co-host of the Retrograde podcast.
Right, relax.
Big fucking deuce.
Mikey.
Speaking of deuces, we've got this is where the Pope shits.
The woods?
The forest.
Oh.
I saved it somehow. From 2018, The Forest, with over 5.3 million units.
What? I've never heard of that game. What is this game?
It's a PC game. It's kind of a walking sim, kind of adventure horror game, first person. I think first person. I never played it myself. Resident Evil Remake from 2002 is number 8. That was actually the original Resident Evil Remake. I think that was a GameCube game.
Okay.
Resident Evil Village.
Oh my God.
Came out in number 7. Yeah, 5.2 million, over 5.2 million sold. Resident Evil 2 Remake from 2019 is number 6. We just talked about that.
Yep.
Resident Evil 6 from 2012 is number
Christ.
5. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is number 4 at 10.9 million units.
Oh my God.
Resident Evil 4 from 2005 is 11 million units. I actually expected Resident Evil 4 to be the top of this list.
Oh, okay.
Because of how many consoles it's been. GameCube, PlayStation 2, probably 3 and 4 as well. The Wii, it's been re-released on every console several times. I think there's even a mobile version of it. So that surprises me it's not higher. Resident Evil 5 from 2009 with 13 million units. And then at number 1, Dying Light.
Whoa.
From 2015 with 20 million units sold.
What an upset for the Resident Evil franchise.
Honestly.
Wow.
It's like the Buffalo Bills those 4 years.
Okay, relax.
Just so close to the victory. You know, it must be tragic to be a Buffalo Bills fan in some
I think it's more impressive
ways.
that Resident Evil got so many.
That is
there.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do that.
It's just really sad that they couldn't pull it home when it truly counted. Resident Evil, I'm talking about. Obviously.
Right. Resident Evil has such a record of so many in the top 10 that no one will ever do that, which is impressive in its own light.
It's very impressive,
Not
but
Dying Light.
it's weird because I bet you if you asked Resident Evil, it would trade all that away for the first place spot. That's just me. I don't know. But I bet you Resident Evil and all of the citizens of Raccoon City, which love beef on weck, which love wings, maybe the home of wings.
Yeah.
Famous in Raccoon City.
Raccoon City's got very good beef on weck.
Very good beef on weck. They would just trade it all for that number 1 spot.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe this year's Resident Evil will be the team that wins it all.
Maybe this year's Resident Evil will get the number 1 spot
for Raccoon City.
For Raccoon City.
Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, God. Okay,
I think Raccoon City kind of describes the population of Buffalo pretty well.
I would agree. They're also filled with monsters. How many Resident Evil games was that?
That was
12? Like, honestly, 11?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Oh, wow.
Holy moly.
Way off my 8.
Well, but 8 was a reasonable.
You know what my favorite number is?
11? No way.
I should have really gone with my actual favorite number.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so there you go. Yes, nice allegory for the Buffalo Bills and Resident Evil somehow. Yes.
Speaking of huge disappointments, let's talk about this week's game, because I'm disappointed we have to spend time with it. Developed by Mob Games, directed by Ben Pavlovich. A real piece of shit.
I was gonna say, I love that you named these people because immediately I'm like, oh, that's a guy I hate.
I hate him.
Yeah, like Brian last week and this
Brian Clark, who was nice enough to retweet one of our tweets.
Know, I saw
and
that.
now I feel bad for talking so much shit.
God, I hope he doesn't listen to that episode.
Well, I have clipped an ad where we call him out, and I will be posting that as well and rubbing that in his face.
Hey, just for the future, for this future app, hey, Mikey, just keep this in mind for you to set up a time now that you remember exactly when this is. Hey, Ben Pavlovich, eat my ass. Fuck you.
Ben Pavlovich. I wouldn't even let you eat my ass because your tongue would dirty up my asshole, you piece of shit.
Yeah, you're the worst. How dare you subject us to this?
And your partner in crime, a real steaming piece of human shit that's been eaten by a dog and shit out, Isaac Christopherson. Brother of Chris? How about this? I'll stab you in the heart. Chris Christopherson, wasn't he in Blade?
Yeah, he's in Blade, the third one, the good one.
Yeah.
You're worse than Blade 3. Suck it. Isaac Christopherson.
These people who spend all their time just making people happy,
working their asses off to really great content that fuck you. Yeah. I think we showed them.
Mob Games weirdly doesn't have a website, but Poppy Playtime does. And I would suggest anyone out there go check it out.
Yeah.
It's very well done in the sense that it is basically a toy website.
Okay.
That is lovely and with little hints of a sinister nature. You'll like be scrolling through and through like the gap of two images as you're scrolling, you'll just see like blood droplets or something or like something behind the scenes. But they're selling like Huggy Wuggy. Like that's just, I'm pretty sure his name is Huggy Wuggy. I should look that up. But listen, to be full disclosure, Andrew, you nor myself, we've never played this game.
Why in the world would I ever play this game?
That's a great question. Because you have a podcast, it turns out.
And that's why I'm doing it right now.
That's why I'm doing it right now.
This game seems much like last week's game.
Yeah.
Seems to really, if Twitch didn't exist, would this game exist?
Well, yeah, because YouTube.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
If you couldn't see the player be scared playing this game, how popular would this game be? It wouldn't beat one of the 11 Resident Evils.
Well, in this situation, the second scenario that you pitched, does Twitch still exist?
Yeah. No. Twitch still doesn't exist.
No, still? But it does. Twitch does. So that's why I'm asking. You're just being a bit unclear by the parameters
in this world.
This one that you're setting up right now?
In this hypothetical world, I am painting a picture right now. There are no.
Why are you painting a picture in this world where these scary games exist?
Jesus
are you
Christ.
on Twitch streaming yourself painting?
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good, actually. Yeah. No, I'm not, because Twitch doesn't exist in this world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This one that you and I are happening right now?
Yes. I'm breaking news to you right now.
Shit.
I know Twitch doesn't exist.
You
never got it off the ground.
The ending of Fight Club, I was Twitch all along.
We should hold hands and watch buildings explode.
Watch me shoot myself in the mouth. Here we go, RetroGrave. Giving you what you always wanted.
Yeah, the highest rated episode.
Yeah. It probably would be.
It's a snuff podcast.
Andrew, now we're up for something.
Hey, there we go.
Would it be as popular in that scenario where Twitch doesn't exist? Again, if YouTube exists, I think it probably would. But if neither of those existed in the same, and you were still painting pictures, I don't think this game would be as popular.
No, like it.
How would you or I even know about it?
It's a great question, right? Yeah, like it feels like one of the ones where you have the little bubble of the guy in the corner going like, like getting scared by it. And that's what works. And that's what we're going to do today, everybody.
And it does work because it's worked well for our episodes too.
It really has. And we're here today because people requested that we play it.
Yes.
Which is insane to me.
It just shows that people are mean-spirited for the most part.
Yes.
And I hope that one day they find themselves in an abandoned toy warehouse where all the employees have vanished, because that's the story of this game.
Oh boy.
What
are we doing there?
You and me?
Well, yeah. Well, whatever.
Twitch doesn't exist.
No, stop.
You were
what is the
painting
main
pictures.
character of the game doing there?
You are investigating, I think.
Oh,
but you're an ex-employee of this place.
Oh.
And 10 years later, you show back up to the warehouse.
I left because I was embattled in some kind of court, like the board tried to overthrow me.
Wrongful dismissal case.
Wrongful dismissal.
Yeah. But it turns out they did you the biggest favor of all because you didn't go missing along with all the other staff.
Yes, and I found painting.
Oh.
I started painting along the way.
A regular George W. Bush you are.
Yes.
Are you also a war criminal?
Well, yeah, I was making this toy that's killing all that people. It would be great if we find out
like Obama's drones.
I'm always bringing it back to Obama.
Shooting everyone.
Oh my God.
Where do we stand, they wonder?
Yes, we are really like Edward Norton-esque Fight Club people. Just trying to watch the world burn.
Watch the world burn.
Wow.
I'm a regular... Want to know how I got these scars?
Oh, the Joker, the Crown Prince of Crime.
Yeah.
It's funny if we got to the factory and we're like, made by the U.S. military. Trying to send these overseas. Just dropping them like UNICEF packages to the enemy countries of whatever the United States.
I love the idea. So by the way, I didn't mention this. October 12th was the 1-year anniversary of Poppy Playtime as well. So we're doing this at a
happy
good
anniversary.
time. The game consists right now of 2 chapters.
Okay.
There are 3 total chapters planned so far. The third one is slated to come out in 2023. Now there's a little bit of a. Why are you laughing at me?
Sorry, I was just thinking like first one, scary game.
Yes.
Toy chases you.
Yes.
Second one, more of the same.
Yes.
Third one, a Kramer versus Kramer style drama, which you debate the
Jacob's Ladder. Or wait, St. Elmo's Fire? No, Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder.
Ladder.
Yes, it's the dreams of the boy at the end.
Right. And turns out the third chapter, you're just playing with an actual toy.
Yes, it's a Who Shot JR?
Yes.
You know, where the first 2 were nightmares, and then Huggy Wuggy gets out of the shower and goes, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, sweetie." And I realized I've been in some kind of relationship with this the whole time, but it's been
It's
a
all
nightmare.
in a snow globe of some sort.
Yes. The Bob Newhart show.
Yes.
The Bob Newhart show sequel is about imagining that the first Bob Newhart show was a dream he had.
See, I was reading that for the whole Bob Newhart show.
You saw it the whole time.
I was like, of course. I'm like, why is it always snowing outside? And why are there handprints on the lens always?
When can we get to the real stuff?
We're going to get to some real scary stuff this time. And actually, let's get to some real stuff. And this is some controversy surrounding the developer of this game, Mob Games. So apart from the fact that they tried to enter the NFT space and did so in a way that a lot of people claim to have been somewhat predatory.
Okay.
Which, remains to be. I think a lot of people who got involved in NFTs at that time were just kind of painted with the same brush. Like some people may have tried to do something the right way. Some people haven't.
Some people were bored apes. Some people
were bored apes. Yeah, exactly. In this case, though, there's kind of a history of this company doing some questionable things. Poppy Playtime comes out. Chapter 1 is available. That's October 12th, 2021. Yep. Chapter 1 is available for $5.
Okay.
In the lead up to Chapter 2, they make Chapter 1 free. About a month or so leading up to it. Seems like good business standards.
Just like a sequel of a movie always has to put the first one on Netflix a couple weeks before.
Sure.
You get all excited for it.
Sure. The exception being someone is paying for a Netflix subscription. So there's money that has to be paid.
Okay.
Chapter 2 comes out and it is double the price of Chapter 1. It's $10 now.
Okay.
And everyone who purchased for $5 Chapter 1 didn't get a refund, didn't get a credit towards the second one. So they end up having to pay $15 for 2 chapters, whereas presumably, and Chapter 2 is notoriously the worst chapter. Right.
I see.
So a newcomer could have played Chapter 1 for free and Chapter 2, which is the worst entry, for $10, and that's their experience. Mob Games didn't refund any of the initial fees. Did they have to? I don't know. Is it one of those like don't forgive these student debts because I had to pay my student debt kind of thing? Like I don't know. It's exactly 1-to-1 with that. I think. Let's get into it.
Yeah, and we're not okay with that.
We're not into it.
No. And where do they stand?
So
where do they stand with stuff? Like honestly, now he's attacking the fucking student loan forgiveness. What in the world?
So that's one kind of mark against Mob Games. The other mark came in the NFT thing. They basically had these in-game posters that you had to purchase outside of the game for real currency, and they were more expensive than the cost of the games themselves.
Okay.
And they also gave some story history and some context to the actual story of Poppy Playtime. So in order to fully know the story of the game, you were going to have to buy 6 NFTs, which unlocked a 7th one that you couldn't get until you bought all 6 and then buy the 7th one. So not the best model for that.
No.
They walked it back, but they said that due to contracts, they had to keep the NFTs around, which is how NFTs work. So there you go. But they said that they donated all the profits.
Yeah, they're non-fungible.
Yeah, they're non-fungible. You can't funge those things.
You can't funge them. That's the only thing I know about them.
I've been working on a funging machine for the past 6 months or so.
You must be so disappointed right now.
I was so disappointed. I just patented it.
What is that Twitter thing where it's just like, I've been working on this for months. He just tweeted out my whole story. That's essentially it. I think it was a Donald Trump thing where like a reporter was working on this like big article for like 2 months, getting all these people together. And Donald Trump just like tweets out exactly what he did. And he's like, oh no. And you've been working on this funging thing, and then they come up with non-fungible
tokens.
Oh, that's just...
No matter how hard my machine tries, it cannot funge these things.
Right.
And
wait, so that's good.
No, because I want my machine to be able to funge things.
Right.
It's a funger, Andrew.
Isn't this like Rogaine where you were trying to like treat cancer and then all of a sudden people kept growing hair and you're like, Well,
give Rogaine to people who are just about to undergo chemo. Why don't they do that?
2 birds, 1 stone.
2 birds, 1 stone.
They keep dying though, but they look great.
They look great. So they pledged all profits of their NFTs to the Clean Air Task Force.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Cool.
So this game came with its share of controversies, just like we had with Slender. There were some parents complaining that kids were doing things that were influenced by Huggy Wuggy and all this good stuff. Snopes found that to varying degrees of truth, but one that was actually proven to be true in September of this year. So just like a month ago, there were students in I can't remember where they were, in El Salvador, I think actually.
El Salvador.
And they were playing a game that they got from Poppy Playtime. And it was a game where someone had to tell other kids to inflict self-harm on themselves. And all it says in the article is that it involved pencil sharpeners and that 2 of the kids ended up having to go to the hospital. So infer what you will about how you use a pencil sharpener to inflict self-harm.
Was it their penis?
Was
it their penis?
It was... Right. It wasn't Huggy Wuggy. It was a moil. And he was just trying to invent a faster way to perform circumcision.
The moil industry in El Salvador is booming.
It's booming. And then those kids are busting.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
No, but then again, like, I don't know. They do this shit all the time. To hear that the one woman, this poor woman, not really because she's a monster, but she did this huge impassioned thing on like online about Hocus Pocus 2.
No.
And it's like, just like you're welcoming the devil into your home and like all this kind of stuff. And you're like,
she's right.
Yeah, she is right. It is about witchcraft. I don't know what everyone's laughing about, but, and you're just like, that woman thinks she's so right.
Yes.
And the problem is like,
thinks it's, she knows she's right in her
so
mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Down to her bones. She knows that this is the right thing to do. And so in that way, I would feel bad for her, but she just looks down and condemns other people. And then you're like, oh, okay, so now you're an asshole.
There are things that I know I'm correct about, but I don't use that to chastise other people.
I'm surprised it didn't end with a talk of like, so Bette Midler is like, Bette Midler is evil. And you're like, oh, there you go. Okay, well, there you go. That sounds good to me.
So this is one of those games similar to Five Nights at Freddy's, not just in terms of the actual like toys, gameplay and the fact that it's toys, but it allows for so much merchandising. And that's kind of, I think, what the purpose of this was. Because on their website, on the Poppy Playtime website, most of it is dedicated towards the sale of plush figures, posters, that sort of thing. That's what people want, right? They probably make more money off merchandising than they do the game itself.
Okay, I am now putting something together in my head.
What?
So at my local convenience store, one of the best convenience stores in all of Toronto, it's called Splish
Kim's
Splash.
Convenience. Oh, okay.
It's called Splish Splash. It's an amazing place. It's got tons of stuff, very nice people. There is a toy there that is so evil looking. And it says by Huggy Wuggy here. And I took a picture of it the other day and sent it to somebody going like, who in the right mind would buy this fucking thing? And like, I didn't know if it's just like one of those like off-brand toys that just completely missed the mark on trying to be cute. And then, you know, like, but it's like, you start looking at it, you're like, oh my sweet God, like, what is this? And now I'm starting to realize it was a merchandising opportunity from a horror game.
Yes.
Wow.
Makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
But
that also speaks how popular it is too, by the way.
It does.
Sold at a convenience store.
And I love the fact that you could go in there and buy that and and not everyone else knows what it is. Those things are really cool. But everyone will know if this movie deal goes through with Studio 71, movie adaptation of the game. They're actually working on getting Roy Lee of Vertigo Entertainment. Vertigo Entertainment is the production company behind movies like Barbarian, which you've talked about recently. His House, which was on Netflix last year. A potential BioShock movie that they're working on. Dr. Sleep.
Oh, I like Dr. Sleep a lot.
Dr. Sleep was good.
Yeah.
It's chapter 1 and chapter 2, Lego Batman and a few others. So like a production company that has a lot of good movies behind it. I'm always a fan of good movies coming out. So if you can apply a good franchise to it, go for it.
Absolutely. Speaking of movies, Smile.
I want to see it.
I've heard people like, it's like one of the best, like you got to go in a theater, scream and stuff like that.
But that's why I don't want to see it. Apparently there's so many pop-out scares.
Oh, it's all pop-out scares.
So I'm not going to see it.
No, it seems like an absolute nightmare, even though people really love it and it's doing really well at the box office, which is great. But it looks fucking terrifying because people now I get clips on TikTok of like the movie and I'm like, oh yeah, it looks fucking awful.
What I hate about it is like the premise. When I saw the trailers, I was like, this looks fucking great. And they do things in the trailer where they like hold on someone's face just like with that smile.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, they're about to pop out in the trailer and they don't do it.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, maybe the whole movie is just dread and pacing. And I love that. So to find out it's all pop-out scares, it's a house of horrors, no thanks.
Act 2 is supposed to be like a whole like a law drama because they're trying to find out how this is happening. And you're like, what? Why? Like, just get back to the scary part.
True?
Yeah, supposedly. And the other thing about Smile I wanted to say was that the guerrilla marketing behind it. Did you like?
Yes, I heard.
I talked about this on the podcast.
Yes, I think you did.
Okay.
Where they had people sitting at the baseball games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
That's such a good idea.
Okay. Yes.
Speaking of brilliant, a lot of people on Steam find this game brilliant. It has a lot of good reviews, and I'd love to read some of those Steam reviews for you.
Love
if you
to hear
don't
it,
mind.
Mikey. Love to hear it.
So we've got one from Luncheon Head. This is a thumbs up. This game reminds me that I am mentally ill. Thumbs up.
This game reminds me that I'm mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Someone check on Luncheon Head.
I mean, we should have said that right after I read the name Luncheon Head.
Yeah, Luncheon Head.
How about Slimy? Slimy.
That must have been hard to get. That's a big name.
It's a pretty big name.
Yeah, it's not Slimy 2048.
No, it's
Slimy.
Just Slimy.
OG.
But the L is a 1 and the I is no.
2 E's instead of a Y.
Slimy says, fun game to make your 7-year-old nephew play.
We are your 7-year-old nephew,
We
Slimy.
are Slimy's 7-year-old nephew.
Oh, God.
And then Lil Baby said, I'm for PF. That's probably a reference I don't get.
Lil Baby
said, I'm for PF.
Okay. Wonder what PF stands for.
Paul F. Tompkins?
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah. I haven't done my taxes yet.
That's what Little Baby said?
Thumbs up.
Little Baby said, I haven't done my taxes yet.
And gave it a thumbs up. What made me chuckle?
What date was that posted? Wouldn't it be great if it was April 2nd? You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, review liked by the IRS.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
No.
Shit. So those are the reviews that we got coming in. A lot of positive reviews. All the negative reviews, most of them have to do with Mob Games as a company and their shady business practices, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But that to me means this game is probably actually really good because the reviews tend to trend very, very well. If the only negative ones are on there because people want to take a shot at the company, then the game itself is probably good. And a lot of the positive reviews are like, this company sucks, but this game is good.
Yeah, right,
so if someone's able to say that, something tells me it's going to push it over the edge. Now, does that mean scary or good? Who knows? But I think we're going to find out.
We're going to find out right now. Oh, God. Let's find out Fuzzy Wuzzy.
Let's find out Fuzzy
Huggy
Wuggy.
Wuggy.
So once again, you don't have to go to our Patreon, but you can get a preview of this over on our YouTube channel for all the gameplay. I can go to YouTube, look up the Retrograde podcast and find the gameplay segment for this game. But you also should check out our Patreon account, patreon.com/Retrograde podcast. It's $5 US per month. All the gameplay segments plus 2 minimum bonus episodes per month. So go check that out. If you're going to do that, great. If not, we'll see you on the other side in 2 shakes of an animatronic's tail.
While it's trying to kill you.
Well, it's trying to hug
It's shaking because it's hugging you so much.
Just a reminder that you can now find our gameplay segments where we play through a portion of today's game and provide video commentary while doing it over on our Patreon, patreon.com/the Retrograde podcast. Join the Mushroom Club for $5 US per month for access to all the gameplay, plus 2 to 4 bonus episodes per month where we do things like character drafts, top 10 lists, and even take some suggestions from our community. So show some support to the podcast by joining the Mushroom Club at patreon.com/the Retrograde podcast for access to bonus content and all of our gameplay segments. We'll see you guys on the other side.
And welcome back to the Retrograde. You okay?
Ooh, yeah.
Oh boy.
It just comes to me. Comes in waves.
Is this your way of dealing with anxiety?
It's a lot of, I'm very much a Robert Durst type person. I just burp it out.
You have a tell?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of tells.
Yes.
Remember the movie Rounders? Poker, Matt Damon, Edward Norton, who we've been talking about a few times.
Speaks to an Oreo.
Yes. His tell is he eats an Oreo.
and yet,
sorry, it's a movie about poker. That's an important part of this. And the big bad guy is John Malkovich. John Malkovich in the most comical Russian accent of all time. And his tell while he plays poker is he eats an Oreo. And you think the best poker players in the world playing for millions of dollars would be like, fucker keeps eating that Oreo every time he's got a good hand. What a weird thing to do. So that's your thing. You burp.
That's my thing is I burp. I go to the bathroom. I make sure I'm mic'd up and I say, you fool. They know. And then I burp a lot. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Poppy Playtime.
Poppy Playtime.
I'll say this.
I'd love to hear it.
Off the bat.
Okay.
Off the cuff.
Okay.
Last week's game was much scarier.
Really?
You didn't think so?
I'm not sure I thought so.
What?
I'm not sure I thought so because what scares me more than out of random nowhere scares is the scare that there's a slight bit of anticipation. The ones that scare me the most in movies, mostly in games like this, is the ones where the music slowly builds.
Sure.
And they slowly turn the corner.
Yeah,
and you know something's going to happen. And yet they knew. Yet you still go, God. Because that's the thing is like ever since I was a kid, I did, like I mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago, put my hands in my ears, and I start tensing up every bone in my body. And I'm like, and it still gets you. This is like this because when you startle Huggy Wuggy, I feel like I'm on drugs. When you startle Huggy Wuggy and you're running, you know he's coming. And if you wait too long in 1 second or you turn, the fact he knows he's coming, instead of just randomly walking through there in the dark and he would just appear, that's less scary to me.
So I get what you're saying there. When I was playing the Mortuary Assistant,
thank you.
The whole thing was tension.
Right.
Every moment, it's because the scares could be randomized. Because I knew not everything had to be a cue. There was never a moment where I was fully comfortable turning around. Whereas in this game, you kind of got the sense that like there weren't very many scares.
No.
There wasn't really tension apart from the fact that we thought maybe a scare would be coming. But once like there's a moment where you're doing a puzzle and then you go up somewhere and you put some keys into a little slot. And I was certain for some reason that no scare was going to happen. So I felt okay with it.
Yeah.
I was okay. However, I was on edge. But there's something inherently less tense about a toy factory as opposed to a mortuary.
Yeah.
And I get the it's like when you go to a school at night and the lights are turned off.
Juxtaposition.
The juxtaposition, something you're used to being very normal, being uber creepy.
Or even safe.
Yes, exactly. So that I understand, but that feeling didn't really work too well on me.
Yeah, I get that. I wonder, we were playing the game with, obviously our spidey senses tingling.
Yes.
Going like, well, something's going to come out at any time here. And I think it only dissipated when we had the first big scare, which was really, for all intents and purposes, it was really when the first time that Huggy Wuggy walks out of the dark.
There was a scare. We're assuming kind of that you've played this game.
Yeah, we're going to ruin the whole thing.
And to be fair, you should, because it's 25 minutes, 30 minutes long.
So short.
And it's free on Steam right now. The first scare was when you have to run down a hallway and steam pops out at you. That creeped me out.
If you're saying like startling moments, like you turn on all the power and you turn around and Huggy Wuggy, the statue that you thought was there, is gone. And then you're like,
that was creepy. That's the kind of thing I like.
I do too.
Because it's like that thing was there. It's already changed once because it gave us a key. Yeah. But that didn't startle me.
No.
And I'm okay with that. But I know a lot of people play these games wanting to be startled. And if that's the case, there are surprisingly few of those moments in this game.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes, there were way more, at least attempts at startling you in the Mortuary Assistant and even Slender.
Okay, but I think the argument here is that all the scares here are story-based scares. They are on a line of you progressing through the game.
Sure.
And these happen naturally because they're
instanced.
There are moments, there are checkpoints that create this.
Yeah.
What was, I think, scary about the Mortuary Assistant and something we complimented it about was there's random scares along the way that kind of don't mean anything, to be perfectly honest, but they're there and they kind of keep you on edge.
Yeah.
Whereas the story scares are the old woman coming back to life and telling you where to go.
Yes.
It's speaking for Satan.
Yeah.
I sound insane. And all that moment, but without those pop-out scares, without those random scares, I don't know if I would have found that game very scary at all.
Even the tension though?
The tension was very scary, but I don't know if the payoff would have been as good.
So, okay, so compare that then to the payoff, if any, in this game. What you found the payoff scares in Poppy Playtime better than Mortuary Assistant?
Yes, because when you see him and you have to run away, that's a big part of this. So you see Huggy Wuggy.
It's the climax of this game,
100%.
of this chapter.
Like a 12-foot plushie that is running after you.
Yeah.
And you have to run through the tunnels of a manufacturing line.
Yeah.
And so if you take the wrong turn, he could be walking behind you or walking down a corner. That was very scary. And what was scary about it was very video gaming to me, because I actually had to control and run and turn corners and look. And then if I didn't do the controls fast enough, I would die. Well, my whole life about video games has taught me that's the way video games do.
Right.
If I do not operate these things in the right sequence, I will die.
Sure.
Usually not in a horror method. It's usually falling off a cliff or, getting stabbed to death or something like that.
Or a failure of mechanics.
Sure.
The thing I didn't like about that, and this is the moment I think we'll spend the most amount of time talking about in this game. It's because you go down this hallway after completing a puzzle, and there's kind of darkness in this area where you end up, and Huggy Wuggy just like walks towards you out of the darkness, and that scared the shit out of me.
Yes.
So you turn around and you start running, and that little conveyor belt is the only place you can go. The way around Huggy Wuggy, and this is what I didn't understand. I've seen this clip on YouTube and Twitch before. This moment where Huggy Wuggy comes out and you have to go into the area. I just figured it was unbeatable because they go in there, and I've seen 3 different versions of it, and they all end up with them getting killed by Huggy Wuggy because he just ends up coming at them from the other way. Yeah. Like he just cuts them off, like it's a failure. The problem with that is there is a correct path through the conveyor belts, but you have no logical way of reasoning out what that is. Mm-hmm. Not when you're running away. No. You basically trial and error, go right when you could have gone straight, or down when you could have gone straight, or turn around when Huggy Wuggy comes towards you. But all of that is just random. It's essentially random. It's not like I dodged at the right time in a game during a fight because I've memorized the windup of an enemy and I know how to do that. It's just trial and error. And because I can't imagine you getting through this the first time because there's nothing to suss out logically. And because of that, you end up replaying this moment that should have been an organic scare. You end up just having to do it over and over again. Yeah, but like a 5-minute segment.
Oh, for sure. But if the point is to be scared, the few failures are very scary.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So I agree with you. Running through it's annoying.
Yeah.
But if the point is to be scared, it helped contribute to those scares. And what did we do it on the 3rd time?
I think the 4th time.
Okay, 4th time?
Yeah.
So maybe if we did it on the 3rd time, we would have been like, perfect amount of times.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
4th time is a little annoying, but then we got it. And you know what? The problem was he falls to his peril.
Yes.
Falls off the platforms because of a box that we dropped on his head. Great. Awesome. But didn't you think the whole time while walking the catwalk, you're like,
he's coming back.
We're not safe.
He's coming back.
So I like that we did something. We had the scary thing happen, and it still didn't really let the air of the balloon.
Yes.
That's good.
Especially because you end up leaving this moment, this interaction with Huggy Wuggy. And by the way, Huggy Wuggy is kind of the toy that you would recognize most as an icon image from Poppy Playtime.
Right.
The tall, blue, Gumby looking guy with the big mouth, or as I say, Gumbo looking guy.
So what, you said it so confidently, dude. Like, it's like gumbo. And I'm like, the dish?
He'd be great at eating it. He's got all those teeth.
With his horse, Poco.
So you end up, you go on the catwalks and you go into, because the game starts off where it's like, find the rose. You're supposed to go find out why all the employees disappeared, and you get a message saying, we're not dead.
We're not dead.
We're still here or whatever. Yeah. And you find the rose, and it says, because it tells you to, and you go in there.
Sorry,
and
can I just say, you find the poppy.
You find the poppy.
Sorry. It is a poppy.
In Flanders Field, where
right.
poppies grow.
Local jokes.
Wait, is that
Canada?
Flanders Field is a Canadian song?
Flanders Field is a Canadian poem written by a Canadian doctor that was in battle from World War I.
Wow.
Yeah.
Americans out there, do you know the song Flanders Field?
Poem.
Well, I sing it.
Oh. Crying and singing.
Saluting.
Erect.
And then it ends where you end up, like, you go into this hallway with, like, old wallpaper.
Yeah.
Like 70s, 60s wallpaper.
Sure.
A lot of lights, a lot of sconces on the wall.
So many sconces.
You are ensconced by sconces down
here. You really are.
And then you open up a cabinet because there's a doll in it, and the lights turn off, and it says, "Oh, you opened my cabinet." Like, fucking obviously.
Which is Poppy. That is Poppy of the Poppy's Playtime.
Yes.
This huge-eyed doll.
Yes.
That is like, thank you for freeing me.
And then the chapter ends.
But
the whole time, you're right. Even after seeing Huggy Wuggy fall to his death, you're thinking that's not it. And it feels unfair that he would come back, because it is a violent death.
It is. You see him hit multiple catwalks on the way down.
And bleeding.
Yes. Which raises a few questions.
Number one. Oh, where do I start?
Number one, human inside? Question mark.
Number two, human alive inside.
Number three, Island Dr. Monroe combination human animal thing? Is it like Grover and human put together?
Right. Number four, if human, why so mad at me?
Number five, teeth. Sorry, number five, teeth. Question mark. Number six, teeth, comma, why? It's so many teeth. It's like a shark.
Someone manufactured this thing.
So they do. So there's a device during the game of using these videotapes that are explaining the backstory of what is happening.
Think audio logs from BioShock, but way more cumbersome and 20 years later.
Can I also say BioShock, Gumbo Big Daddy, Poppy little...
Yes.
I'm just saying. That's a
good point.
Little sister.
Yeah. Poppy looks like a little sister.
She does. She looks like a large little sister.
Yeah.
Extra large sister.
Ironic. Extra large little sister.
So... Yeah, the videotapes are just a storytelling device because you're not picking up anything really organically. Yes, there are these little like tablets, which make total sense. You're supposed to be hypothetically doing a tour of the factory in most of the places that you're going to. And so they're telling you about the history of when Poppy came and whatever. And the first thing that you see is like a TV that would have been playing in the reception area.
Yep.
Makes total sense. Like Poppies have been around since 1961, giving happiness to children for generations to come. And that whole thing. And you're like, yeah, that makes total sense. But the problem is once the action starts picking up and you're doing puzzles and then you have to stop and go like, oh, let's just watch this television. It makes no sense.
It sucks.
Yes.
It's the reason why I say it's worse than the audio logs is an audio log you can take with you. So you and I thought of an immediate solution.
Yes.
Never mind VHSs and VCRs, because when you put it in, there's no video playing really. You just kind of see like a blurry image on the screen and hear the audio. Have it be like a Walkman and you find cassette tapes. Like,
yes. Or play it over the loudspeakers of the thing. You know what I mean? Like of the whatever, the warehouse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I kind of like that part because I am a sucker for that kind of stuff. It helps fill in the world and fill in the color of the world to know all this kind of stuff.
And yet when we were doing, like, I agree. I love hearing that stuff. I love the world building of it. And we couldn't wait to get away from the VCRs and the TVs when
especially the
playing.
last one, which was so heavy handed of like, you know, it's a little bit of a tough job, but I sometimes say to myself, Mary, you can do it. And you're like, oh my God, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Like I'm being chased by a big blue monster. And I'm like, yeah, I got time for this. You know, so it is interesting that they are trying to thread a needle between a story-based thriller and then also just straight out horror at times. But there's a little bit of puzzles and like, logic.
They said when they set out to make this game, the developers, they said there was such a cliche in the horror genre of it just being a walking simulator or very boring. Like it was all that you were supposed to do was get a scare. It feels like they at least tried to imbue this with a story, mystery, puzzle, and it felt more like an action game or more like an adventure game rather. Yeah. And I appreciate that. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about some of the puzzles and the mechanics in the game. Very early on, the first puzzle in the game, there's a door, a security door that you can't open, and the code sequence is just a bunch of random colors.
Yes.
The solution to this is to go into a toy room, and there's a train moving around a track up top, and the sequence is green, pink, yellow, red, or something
like that. Yeah.
Each of the cars. I honestly don't know why I even thought maybe those colors correspond to the thing. It was process of elimination in the worst sense of the word. It reminded me of like an old Monkey Island point and click adventure where you just have to like find an item and just put it against every other item to see how it interacts, like Return to Zork or something like that, because that ended up being the answer. But logically, why would that be the answer? What is the reason why these train cars,
the workers would know to enter it because of the train cars?
Yeah.
The only thing that I thought was actually better was that there was a 9-panel window that was coming in from the roof. And there was colors on the ground, like color blocks. And I was like, now that would make sense. They were like, just if you ever forget, remember, look down. It's like, that actually makes sense. You know what I mean?
That does make sense.
And no, it was the train cars.
So it was a weird one there. And then after that, you get access to a mechanic in the game that you use quite frequently. It's the like a backpack with these hands on it that you can extend to either grab objects, open doors, or even conduct electricity.
Yes.
And there was one puzzle in this game that I actually really liked.
Yes.
And it was the one where there's this catwalk kind of place up top. You have two hands. So there's a place that conducts electricity. You shoot the hand out to it and you have so far that you can walk before you run out of cord essentially from your hand. And you have to wrap it around conductors and get to the other side while managing a walkway to control when you can make it from one side of the catwalk to the other. And you have to find a way to use your space and control the walkway to get from one end to the other while making sure the cord is long enough to hit all the conductors. Yes. And that was cool. Like as far as video game puzzles go, it was unique. I haven't really done anything like that before. Yeah. And I didn't expect to do something in this game that I've never done in another game. So hats off to that. I would have liked almost a little bit more of that because every other thing wasn't really a puzzle. It was just like, go press a button over here.
Yeah. You know what? A big part of this, I guess I'm just like kind of, it's an overarching thought is that when we did Mortuary Assistant, you're like, oh, this is the demo. And you're like, right. Because it got me primed to play the game.
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, right. This
is the game.
Is the game?
Yeah.
And it kind of ends and I'm like, oh, and it felt exactly like the ending of Mortuary Assistant.
Yes.
Where it left you leaving more and you're like, this feels like a demo again.
It really, it's funny because you say that and I almost forgot that we weren't playing a demo.
Right.
It felt that way. And especially knowing that the reviews for chapter 2 are poor or more poor than chapter 1.
Yeah.
That means that the popularity of this game is basically based solely on the last 5 minutes of this chapter.
Yes.
Where you run it, which we explained in the beginning, where you're going through
Huggy Wuggy.
The purpose of this game is to give streamers a 5-minute clip while playing a 20-minute chapter of a game. And it's amazing to me that the game took off as much as it did as a result of that. Because why do people care about Huggy Wuggy? Why is this selling merch? Why is there a local convenience store near where you live? Which, you want to give the address?
Absolutely. Calgary, Alberta.
Andrew, no one lives in Calgary.
No one would admit to it.
No.
Yeah. Ooh, real burn to Calgary. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that this has kind of taken off the way that it has. But, similarly, I was surprised that Five Nights at Freddy's did the same thing.
I was going to say, it has 12 parts or something like that now. You know, I wonder if it can ever recreate the magic, but maybe part of the magic is that there is actually nothing there. Like, part of the magic is you just do that one exercise. It's really good to do. And you know what? When we did it, I was like, whoa, holy shit, my heart's beating. Let's go. And then it ends. You're like, let's go. Let's do it. That's it. Oh, this is it. Okay.
You know what was funny is that moment where you have to start Huggy Wuggy chasing you. You have to walk into the darkness. Every time, we replayed it 4 times. Every time the jump scare kind of worked on me, even though I knew he was coming. It was like Snacker from Banjo-Kazooie. You know it's coming and you walk up there and he comes and I'm still like,
yeah.
Turn around and
he
run.
casually strolls out of the darkness too, which I think actually helps.
Yeah, like the tall guy in It Follows.
Oh my God, that fucking scary. That is one of the scariest scenes. Excuse me. I don't want to say funny. Scariest scenes. Him like using the door to like pull himself through. Ugh.
No sound cue, just creepiness. And that kind of speaks to like your mind being like, I don't understand what I'm looking at.
It Follows is one of my favorite horror movies last 10 years.
It's fantastic.
It's so good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's the game. That's Poppy's Playhouse.
We actually spent as much time talking about it as we would playing it, to be honest.
Yes. Like, I still would. Well, no. Well, you want to get to our ratings and reviews?
Let's get to our ratings. So,
Okay.
as we mentioned, we're not doing the retro score current score for the month of October for RetroGrave. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to give it its spooky score, which is at the second one we're going to give is out of 4 bits. And the first score we're going to give is 4 bits just based on what we think this game merits as a game. So, Andrew, you want to start off 4 bits. What do you think of Poppy Playtime?
Okay, so we gave positives, we gave negatives in our talk there, but more than anything, if this is a horror game and the point is to be scared, which I know we got a second review coming with the scary scores, I was scared during this game. And so in that way, it did pay off.
Sure.
Is it a fully developed video game that we're going to talk about in every other week? And sometime in February, I'll laugh about, well, not February maybe, but January, I'll laugh about, looking back at this and comparing it to whatever Perfect Dark and going like, okay, it's not much of a game compared to this.
Yep.
That being said, if the point is to elicit emotion out of you, no matter what that is, and it gets that emotion, well, it's successful in some capacity.
Sure.
And so as while the puzzles are pretty good but not great, while the controls are good, not great, while the music and the graphics are good, not great, I still think it was semi-effective because it made me really scared.
Yep.
So it's incredibly short. I can't believe people have to pay $5 for this, not anymore.
But $10 for chapter 2. Imagine paying $10 for that experience.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
See, in that way, it's a failure.
Yeah.
But I was scared by it, and so there was something to this game. I'm gonna give this a higher than I thought score of 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
Yeah, I really am. I thought it was successful.
I understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little bit high because the game itself was so basic. And I know that you have to look at the intention of the game and the intention of the person buying it. I'm the proponent of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But again, we just played the Mortuary Assistant, and I think the Mortuary Assistant is a more fun game. And I think that it's a more fleshed out game as well, and not that much more expensive. And I think the scares are a little bit more spaced out. I think I'm more on edge. If I'm someone who wants that, I get something better out of it. Now, granted, I gave the Mortuary Assistant, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And I'm not ready to go anywhere near that for this game.
No.
But I didn't dislike this game.
Okay.
And I gave Slender a 1.5. I think this one, I'm willing to say that it is, especially now that it's free, an experience that you should try.
Right.
And maybe chapter 3 comes around and saves the whole thing and wraps it up. I'm going to give this one a 2.5 out of 4.
Oh, wow. So next week, you just have to give a 0.5 and you've completed the set.
Oh,
0.5, 1.5, 2.5,
I can't wait.
I know.
Because we have a plan for next week's
Yes.
game. We have to try to find a way to get it to work. And if it does, I don't think I'm giving it zeros all around.
Okay, perfect.
Off
That's
the bat.
great. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
So there you go. A 2.5 and a 3 for a 5.5 out of 8. Okay, so let's get to the spooky scores. Okay, this works on me for so many reasons. I found this game very, very scary, and it had the single biggest scary moment that was extended.
Yeah.
That's the other big part. It's not just that we were scared once, it was that we were scared consistently because of that one scare until we felt a little bit of relief. I think the other one too that pays really well for that one scare with Huggy Wuggy coming out of the darkness and chasing us around for a minute is that it is a story organic scare.
Yes.
It is not a random guy on a thing going, and he disappears and you're like, good. But like, it's like a pop-out scare in a movie. Was that paid off in any way? I don't know. But it kept you on edge. Absolutely. But I respect many more scares that are laid out. You knew that this guy was missing the whole time.
Sure.
You knew he was going to come get you.
Sure.
He's the main character of the story that is trying to get you. And then he still scares you when you know he's going to come and he comes anyway. That's the worst kind of scare. So and the best kind of scare.
Sure.
So they chase you the whole time. I love organic scares. I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 4.
3.5. That's nice. That's so that matches what you gave. So you gave actually the exact same score for both as you did Mortuary Assistant. And it feels, I get that sense that you kind of hold them to a similar standard.
Yeah.
Or sort of similar esteem. Mm-hmm. I'm not quite at a 3.5. But I will say that the true triumph of this game is the fact that, like you said, you know who Huggy Wuggy is.
Yeah.
You know it's going to be Huggy Wuggy that gets you.
Yeah.
You're looking over your shoulder for Huggy Wuggy at every point that you go. And yet it gets you at a point where you somehow have just forgotten about Huggy Wuggy.
Exactly.
That is not easy to do. But it was at a moment where you're walking down a hall and you're like, oh shit, all right, I just beat this puzzle. Thank God. Oh my God, there it is. Like it comes at that little down point. And for that scare alone, Never mind the fact that you usually are going to have to replay it 3 or 4 times. But for that scare alone and the tension that it gives you towards the end, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 4.
A 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's a 6.5 out of 8. Pretty good scores. It's a very interesting game.
Yeah.
It's weirdly shallow at times, but it is also wildly effective in what it's trying to do.
Put it this way. This versus Slender, I'm going this 10 times out of 10. This versus Five Nights at Freddy, I'm going this 10 times out of 10. This versus Mortuary Assistant, I'm personally going Mortuary Assistant if I want to make my life worse.
Yeah, right.
But from a personal standpoint, if I had to play one, I would play this because I found this less scary.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. I found this one to be a little bit scarier, but I agree with you. The Mortuary Assistant gives you more opportunity to do stuff. Like there's actually more of a storyline. Like you had to actually perform on these bodies, which is, something. So instead of just putting boxes in holes, you know what I mean? Which is what this game asks you to do. So I completely agree with you. Oh God, I can now relax for another 6 days.
I can't wait to relax for 6 days because, as I mentioned, if we find a way to get the next game going that we're trying to do, it is going to ruin I may honestly just die. I may die in it playing this game.
Yeah, you may die.
So if you don't hear a next episode,
it's because he's dead.
It's because I'm dead.
Yep.
Andrew, we're going a little bit long, so we're not going to do a question of the week this week or a 3 sentences to You Might Guess the Game, aka Test Your Might. We will get to that next week as well. By the way, if you want to submit a gamer question for the aging gamer and all of us, submit that to the retrogradepodcast@gmail.com or a 3 sentences to You Might Guess the Game, aka Test Your Might. I don't know why I changed the name if I'm going to keep saying that.
No, you got both now.
I like it though.
I know you do.
It's not bad. It's growing on you, right, Andrew?
Oh, yeah. No, it's absolutely growing on me. Yes, absolutely. Like a parasite. Yes.
Right. So like a multi-Oscar award-winning movie?
I wish. But no, keep submitting. If you have ones for those, obviously the 3 sentences one, and obviously any life advice you guys want to ask, you know where to get us at Retrograde Pod or the podcast, the email, which is
the retrogradepodcast@gmail.com.
Perfect. There we go. We love every single one of you, and we can't wait to talk to you soon. Thanks for surviving Retrograde with us one more time. My name is Andrew Bascom, and with me as always is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself,
Mikey Aaronworth.
This is the RetroGrave podcast.
Game. Dum. Dum.
What's this? Like the death march or something? Oh.
Over. It's the death march.
Oh, scary.
And I'm Paul Bearer!
Oh, it was the Undertaker.
Yeah. Oh. Want more Retrograde in your life? You can visit our website for show notes at theretrogradepod.com. Follow us on Twitter at Retrograde Mikey, at Retrograde Andy, and the podcast at Retrograde Pod.
Or Instagram at The Retrograde Podcast.
For bonus episodes, check us out at patreon.com/The Retrograde Podcast.
Send your questions and business inquiries to the Retrograde Podcast at gmail.com.
See you next week, D-pads.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
We're both wrong.